Welcome to our FYI program for this morning. Clinton School Superintendent Wes Golden with us, and Wes had some talking points and a couple things to talk about. Maybe not in order, but one of the things we see, probably we drive past it, the Clinton High School. Of course, this kind of weather, wintertime, maybe not a whole lot gets done, but you're on the last stretches. Do you see an end in sight yet, Wes?
Yeah. Well, good morning, Dave. Yeah. It's been a long process, and we're hitting the home stretch. So we're hoping. I've got my fingers crossed here. We're looking at maybe this fall. I'm not going to give. I'll give a time which they've shared with us. But what I've learned over 6 years of construction, that when we get a date, it usually means a couple of months after that. So we're looking at August, hopefully. But truly, a full open, probably. I'm going to go out on a limb and say October.
Could it be one of those where you end up like I think in the academic area, you moved in at the semester Christmas break? Is that a possibility, just to make it easier to access that? Of course, what is in conjunction with that, the section they're working on now, kind of in the middle, there's just a big open space so far. What is that space they're building? Is it classrooms? Is it offices? What's it for?
That's a great question. So what we're seeing is the construction of that final phase. It's the front of the building. Where the old theater was, you're seeing a 2-story building being built, and that is the new offices for principals. It'd be the offices for our school counselors. There'll be a few conference rooms in there that will be off when you're standing in front of the school looking at the front. That will be off to the left-hand side where the old Vernon Cook Theater was. Straight ahead in front, there'll be kind of a horseshoe drive where there'll be some parking for folks out front, kind of like the really old version of Clinton High School. There's a horseshoe drive there. And then behind that horseshoe drive will be the commons area. So it'll be just this full wall of glass. It'll be beautiful. Once you enter that section, it'll be the commons area where students will have their lunch. There'll be some opportunities off to the right-hand side where there'll be a kind of a modern staircase in which is pretty wide, in which you can have a class out there. In modern colleges and universities, they have this stair-stepped kind of stadium seating with no real seats. It's just you sit on these steps and you can have kind of an open classroom forum there. Beneath that, off to the right, there'll be our art classrooms will be there. The mezzanine above, there'll be a mezzanine once you walk in. There'll be a few rooms up there, but that will also get you into the balcony of the theater. So behind that will be the actual front of the theater where you'd walk into the new Durgan Performing Arts Center. So it's going to be spectacular. It's going to be beautiful.
Are you getting anxious? This has been a long time. Are you getting a little anxious to say hurry up?
I think the high school is. They've lived in this for 6 years, and I think they're ready for it to be done. The long run, 5 years, 10 years down the road, no one will remember this time where kids have had to been very flexible, and our kids have been amazing. They've rolled with the punches. They've navigated and been flexible. So the kids have been awesome.
And you mentioned that when you're doing this kind of project and you got the students, you got teachers, have you seen much of an impact yet in the facilities in I hate to say student performance, but in student attitude, whatever you want to term it and whatever you can sense, and that may be all it is, Wes.
Yeah.
As a teacher for a long time and now administrator for at least a period of time, you can walk the halls and you get a vibe.
Absolutely. So the feel is going to be, and it is different. You're in a modern facility, so you have a sense of, well, okay, it's kind of new. You always treat the things that you've got that are new a little bit more gently, if you will. I would say truly, and I have no evidence to directly link the new space with attendance or behavior or performance, but we're seeing upticks in all of them. Our attendance is far better. Our student behaviors are a lot better. I don't want to speak out loud because it goes into the universe, but we've had very few incidences of like behavior, what when we were kids, oh, it's a fight, fight, fight. That those things have not. I don't want to, I'm knocking on wood here, but we're seeing a lot better attendance, a lot better behavior, and we're hoping that translates to better academic performance.
And when it gets all done, then what's next? If you look at October says once a building is open, then it's done and finished, and you close that chapter of work. What's next to take up your time, or is it just maybe you use your time more efficiently?
Well, what's next is, I would say, for the last 25 years, the school district and our community have been fantastically supportive of the schools. And if you look at our facilities and compare us to our neighbors and our area school districts, we have state-of-the-art facilities. And our oldest building will now be, 25 years old. That's, considering most of our buildings for many decades were 50, 70, 100 years old. So now we've got those modern facilities. The thing is keeping them up, right? It's in maintaining them and ensuring that these facilities last for 100 years, so that far beyond me, that they'll last and be taken care of. So yeah, that's our next step with facilities, at least.
Keep it up with that. Well, jumping on something, combine a couple of things maybe. See, you advance I was called new financial officer, Cindy, back there, retired. Somebody asked me, says, how many, I said, I've lost track of how many finance people. Cindy's been there a long time, but there's been a number of people. You have a new one. Tell a bit about that process, how what you expect from a finance person. People may not, they're kind of the key to your work.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, Cindy's been fantastic. She's been here for 13 years. Before that, she was in DeWitt as their CFO for their school district. Then Northeast before that, she had time with the city of Clinton. She's just been absolutely a stalwart and being an advocate, a good steward of taxpayer funds. You can always count on her to be that voice of, hey, are you sure? Here's the consequences, financially of what it's been. And she's been very supportive and so much a person who cares about kids. So she's got some shoes that'll be tough to fill. But Jill Van Rokel, who we've hired and will start July 1st, will slide right in and be that exact same person. She's recently, for 13 years, she's been the CFO for the North Scott Community School District. And what's cool about that is it's a school district of about the same size, has about the same number of students. They've done a ton of construction, so you always wonder, okay, can your CFO handle those construction projects? We'll be finishing up a $65 million project. So she'll be able to tie that bow on that. And so she's got a lot of experience. Before that, she worked here in Clinton, and as an auditor. And we're really looking forward to Jill. She's going to bring a wealth of experience and knowledge. Now, yes, they tell us in superintendent school, the thing that's going to get somebody in trouble is finances. And school finance is really kooky. It's very complex. The average even educator doesn't understand how school finance works. So having a knowledgeable, experienced individual in that position is absolutely critical.
That becomes a key proponent, says, because they're the ones, the finance person is the one that, I say, the school board has the ultimate decision, right, whether you want something or not, or whatever, but that information for the finance person is a key to, before you probably even propose it to the board, you have
Absolutely.
to get, you always have to get, can we do this?
Right, that's for sure.
And then it goes to the board, but that information becomes vital.
Yeah, and they're that person who's got their thumb on finances every minute of every day, and understanding all those pots of money that come in and what you can use them for, what you can't use them for. How can you say, they're usually that first person to say no. And when I say no, first is now justify it before I say yes, because here's where we're at. They are the financial expert within the district to guide not only myself, but more so the board.
We'll tie this in, and we see a lot of this, and people probably, got the tax levy mailing from the county.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of time the focus gets on the city, but the school and the county also have their tax levy.
Yeah.
And everybody's is different. And you mentioned, the school is different than the city, different kind of funding, different tax levy.
Right.
But how is that budget? I know you probably, I'm going to guess, have a hearing coming up on that.
Yep.
Can you quickly give us a kind of a rundown how that works before we take a break for the weather?
Yeah, so it's another one of those complex things in that we have to really, our levy is based on a couple of things, but one is the state allows us to levy money based on student population. So we get approximately 8,000. We're allowed to levy enough funds to get $8,000 per student. So what we do is we take, hey, if we have this many students, we multiply that by 8,000, then that's our budget. Now, it's a little more complicated because there's federal funding and there's other pots that come out. But what we'll say is, okay, based on our property values, and if you're a property-rich district where your property values are really high, you don't have to tax as much. If you have a lower valuation in your property taxes, you have to tax more to get the same amount, if that makes sense. It's complicated, and that's why having a strong, knowledgeable, experienced CFO helps understand that. So then you say, okay, well, this is how much we have to have. This is our property values. This is how many people live in Clinton. And you do this snafu magical calculation to say, this is what our levy rate is. Now, there's some flexibility in there, but there's really only a couple of things that school boards have domain over, if you will, and that's that levy to get that $8,000 per student. We have a management fund. We have bonds that the community have already approved, so that has to be included in there. Our challenge often is that when you see that levy rate in that document that you receive from the county treasurer, is that we have to come out with what we believe will be the worst case scenario based on, we have to wait for the legislature to tell us how much new money we're going to get. Then it usually gets, you can adjust that levy downwards, but you can't make it go higher. So often you'll see in that tax rate, you're the highest that will levy. But it will go down from there because we know now what we're going to get. We know we're going to get 2% new money. So now we can adjust some things downward. So that levy rate will be lower than what is published in that document.
Again, we'll have Jill in to talk about some of this, but quickly says, do you understand, there's some talk about reforming the property taxes.
Oh, yeah.
And that seems to be a lot focused on cities and maybe some on the counties. But do some of the changes they're talking about there, is that going to filter in to impact the school rate? Because again, each funding is different, and you have some mandate. You have some. You're allowed. You says state aid, and tax levy for this amount of money. Some of those tax changes, are you kind of watching that to see
Absolutely.
Is that going to impact how you do business, or do you throw up your hands and go, "Well, wait and see"?
Well, it could very well, absolutely could impact us. It appears, they've done a lot of navigating of how they think this might roll out. It appears that they're kind of holding school districts harmless, if you will, not making significant changes to school districts. It does appear that they're putting a bit more effort into cities and counties, because that's really it. You only have 3 entities that can levy property tax. It's school districts, cities, and county supervisors. That's it. So it does appear, but you never know. You just never know. And absolutely, we're watching it because many of the things that they do pass can and may impact school districts.
We'll get back to a few more minutes with Wes Golden, Clinton School Superintendent, after our weather break.
It's time for your WQAD Storm Track 8 local weather forecast, brought to you by S. Kelly Designs at 242 6th Avenue South in Clinton.
Your Thursday forecast is one worth getting outside for. We are going to see abundant sunshine, light winds, and temperatures heading for the low to mid-60s this afternoon. Only a few clouds tonight. Not as cool, be fairly mild, with overnight lows in the low 40s. With your Storm Track 8 weather impact forecast, I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzky.
Right now in Clinton, Iowa, it's 37 degrees.
Your WQAD Storm Track 8 local weather forecast has been brought to you by S. Kelly Designs for shirts, cups, and more.
Looking for the perfect gift or custom apparel? Visit S. Kelly's Designs at 242 6th Avenue South in Clinton. They specialize in creating one-of-a-kind, custom-made gifts that wow. Want to personalize a t-shirt, hat, cap, koozie, or shirt? They've got you covered. Whether it's for a special occasion or just because, S. Kelly's Designs makes your ideas come to life with quality and style. S. Kelly's Designs, 242 6th Avenue South, Clinton. Follow them on Facebook.
Well, we get back to Wes Golden. We're going to wrap things up. We've got a few more minutes, Wes. Got to talk a couple more things you mentioned. This maybe ties in a little bit to the construction. We talked about spring activities that you mentioned in the list. They just finished the high school spring theater production in the new theater.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was really the first time that we were able to use the pit orchestra. You know, those of you who had been to Old Clinton High School and Vernon Cook Theater, whenever there was a musical production, the pit orchestra would really occupy the first few rows of the theater where people would sit. But in the new construction, there's an actual legitimate professional pit area for the orchestra. It was so cool. It was, and the kids did a fantastic job. The directors, the band and choir folks, they did a fantastic job, and it's so cool.
What are the kind of activities? Of course, we haven't quite got into spring sports season yet, but kind of on the fringe.
Yeah, we're getting there. So, track has started. Soccer starts soon. Usually it's right around this time that soccer starts, but it's fun to see. There's so many of our students who participate. What's really cool, like at the middle school, there's something like 150 students who go out for track and field. So we're seeing an increase in participation. We're looking at 40 or 50 girls going out for soccer. And that's such a cool turnaround where long ago, like when I was in high school in the 1980s, it was long ago, but there was kids participated, and we saw, especially after COVID, just recently, we saw a lot of kids just not engaging in those extracurricular activities, and we're starting to see that turnaround, which is really fun. It's exciting to watch, and we always say, hey, if we have enough kids, we'll add another coach. So it's fun to watch that growth happen again.
Is that does that carry over into other things when you get kids involved?
100%. And when you look at and you talk to folks out in the community, or you look in professions, and they say, well, what do you think as a boss that is critical to a future employee? And they're looking at things like, hey, they know how to manage their time. They know how to collaborate, be a team member, cooperate, and all of those things happen in activities, be it the musical, be it a sport, be it an activity of some sort. I encourage kids to be involved in at least one thing minimally. I even told that to my own children. I don't care what you do. You don't have to do what dad or mom did. I was in band and cross country and track, and neither of my kids did those sports but were activities, but they were in orchestra, they were in drama, they did those things. And I think it's such an important part of a student's academic and just individual growth to learn how to work with others, to learn how to manage your time, knowing, hey, I've got this assignment due, but I also have practice, or I've got this group project going on in class, but I also have a meet or a concert tonight that I have to perform at, and how do you juggle those things? So absolutely one of the most critical things a student can do is get involved.
Well, that leads into work-based learning, and that's something that new terminology, but maybe it's an old concept.
Absolutely, and we just had our business education symposium, really kind of coordinated through Grow Clinton and Stacy Borgeson and all those great folks. And what's really cool is we've been talking about at Clinton at least. We're looking at Portrait of a Graduate. What are those skills, those soft skills, those 21st century skills that we want students to be able to know or do to be an effective, contributor to society? Can they collaborate? Can they problem solve? And all those things. And what we're really starting to see, and it's greatly appreciated as our community is taking on our students and allowing them to participate in their workforce, and what, be it a job shadow, be it an internship, apprenticeship, and even having folks come into our buildings and teach kids about what their business does helps our students see their future. And I appreciate and wanted to thank all of our community partners and continue to encourage others who aren't involved yet to get involved, because it's such a huge thing. You know, educating our students is not just a school thing, it's a community thing.
Wes, does this play into the portrait of a graduate? I know you worked on that
Yeah.
for seemed like years. Does this all play into that? Is that still the portrait of graduates? You know, you just kind of picked that up and kind of gave final approval to it here not that long ago.
Yeah.
Does this all play into the same thing?
Absolutely, and that was one of the key messages that was brought out in our business school or education symposium, is how we're seeing those things play out. Meaning, how do you collaborate? What does that look like in a business or an industry environment? Whereas it's going to look maybe a little bit different in a school setting. When I'm asking students to problem solve, what does that look like in their situation? If I'm working on becoming a plumber, or perhaps, you know, we had one young lady who interned at a funeral home. What does that look like, you know? And I always say those folks who are partnering with us, those businesses and industries, they have street cred. I call it street credibility, right? When they say, hey, you need to show up on time, you need to wear your steel-toed boots, you need to have this prepared when you come in, it means a lot more when it comes from them. When, hey, Mr. Golden, I know you told me that, but you're just a teacher, you don't know what you're talking about. They have truly a weight behind their statements.
They'll listen a little closer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, how does that happen? Do your kids do that too?
Yes.
Yeah. They didn't listen to mom and dad.
Oh, yeah.
Home, but, you know,
Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about.
Just send them out to the job, and they pick right up on it.
I've been telling you this for years, but it needed somebody else to say it. Yep.
And we mentioned the portrait of a graduate. Is that still a thing? Are you still
Yep.
using that?
Absolutely.
How does? I know we haven't really got the. We could probably talk it out for an hour, but
Yeah.
what is that? How's it working in the Clinton district? Are you able to still do some of those things with some of the requirements?
Absolutely.
Because they're forcing down or mandating some new classes and new courses kinds of things. Are you still able to do those kinds of things?
Absolutely. And I would say that we do it far better at the secondary level, middle school, high school, where the middle school and the high school, they really try to integrate that into their programs. So meaning if I'm doing at the middle school, they're project-based learning. So if we're doing a project of some sort and this class is really focused on the Portrait of a Graduate concept of collaboration. So then we build rubrics and we build, you know, educational processes that allow kids to learn how and also experience what collaboration looks like in an effective way. And then they get feedback on that. And we do that all the way through at the high school. We have students who work towards getting, quote unquote, a kind of a certification that they've demonstrated competencies that are found in the Portrait of a Graduate. So they can then take that certification, quote unquote, onto a future employer and say, look, I've shown that I've demonstrated competency in self-awareness, in collaboration and problem solving, and all those other great competencies.
Is that hard for teachers to integrate that into
Oh my gosh.
You were a teacher at one point, so.
Absolutely. I taught for 22 years before becoming an administrator, and I had that epiphany too long ago. It's like, wait a minute, here I am, a physics teacher, and I've been doing this a long time, and of my 22 years, I've probably had a handful of kids going to be physicists. But every student has had to go on to be able to problem solve, to collaborate, to, be accountable and be self-aware. So I had that moment in time where like, man, this is the stuff I should really be focused on, because these are the things businesses, industries want kids to be able to do. I always gave Gary DeLacy a hard time because, how many times have you used the quadratic formulas? Me, not since high school, so is it more important that they understand the quadratic formula or how to problem solve, right? So that's where we really focused on. But yes, it is hard. It is really hard to integrate those things, especially those of us who've taught for so long and you're so focused on your content. But how do I now make a little bit of a shift on saying, now how do I help folks learn how to become accountable?
Wes, talked about a number of different subjects. Wandered around the conversation. Anything that you came in you wanted to cover that we didn't, that we overlooked, that you want to make sure to say?
No, I'm good. I know you had a couple things you wanted to talk about, but I'm good.
We didn't get to those, so hey, we'll put them on the list for the next time.
Excellent.
Thanks, Wes Golden, Clinton School
Thank you.
Superintendent, with us this morning.
Thank you.